let's take a look at all the books that I read in the month of July. Hi guys, welcome back to Faithfully Booked. Welcome back to this space. This is me attempting to get comfortable. Welcome back to this video. So in this video I'll just be diving into the books that I read in the month of July. So I think July was a really good reading month. I read 6 books in total, but I was coming from a place where I was in sort of a reading slump, not exactly a reading slump, but sort of a reading slump. So for me to read 6 books in July, I mean, it was a win. It was a good one for me. And there were actually 2 books that I did not finish. So I DNFed How to Hear from God and House on the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. The first one is by Joyce Meyer. Right? It's not like they were not good books, but I, lost interest along the way and I got tired, so I did not finish it. So this is just saying that it's okay to, not complete some books. I would advocate for, completing books and everything if you actually have a tangible reason, or if it's not just working out at that point in time, then totally go ahead and leave it. You can go back to it later. So I might go back to, I really doubt, but I might, like How to Hear from God. I doubt it because that's not my first time trying to read it, or my second time or third time. Anyways, but my point is that you can actually leave the book and go back to it later. So let's just get into some of the books that I read in the month of July. But before I do that, how are you doing? Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming here again. Hope, you enjoyed the last video, and I hope you have a good time in this one as well. Hope you just get some books that you're going to add to your future TBRs, and you read these books and you actually enjoy these books that you're reading and gain 1 or 2 things, because that's the essence of reading, right? To escape, to be informed, to be better, and all of that good stuff. But hope you're doing well. Let me know in the comment section and everything. So these are some of the books that I read in the month of July. These are 4 books. Oh, this is the one that I did not finish. This is How to Hear from God by Joyce Meyer. I'm wondering, should I start off with the books that I did not finish? All right, let me just do that. So this is How to Hear from God by Joyce Meyer. It's a really good book, and that's why I was a bit iffy about not completing, because I know that it's a really good book. And even when I was tempted to put it down initially and all of that, I just tried to go through it and just try to read it and everything. This book takes us through how to hear from God, right? The different ways that God speaks to us and all of that, through dreams, through visions, through prophecy, any other ways, through common sense, through nature and all of that. So if you want to get better at hearing from God, you want to know how God speaks to you, this is a book that you should read. Sorry, I didn't even mention through the word of God. God speaks through the Bible. God speaks through the Bible. That's the primary way. So you're looking for an audible voice, you're looking for a dream, you're looking for a vision, but God has already spoken through the Bible. So this is definitely a book that you should read. I would recommend it, honestly. I would. It's just that I got a bit tired, and also my approach to reading the book, because I was supposed to complete a number of pages in a particular day. I would not complete it, carried over to that day. It was just a whole lot, right? But I could go back. I actually could go back in the future to complete it, because I know that it's a really good book. So I definitely would recommend this book. This is a good book, How to Hear from God by Joyce Meyer. So the next book that I did not finish was House on the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. And what I should have done better is that I should have actually read the back of the book, and I should have read the about of the author before actually picking up this book. I just would see it in different places, see House on the Cerulean Sea, but I did not know anything about the books. I just decided to give it a try, and basically details the story of a social worker, right? He works with like foster houses, foster homes, and children that are out of their parents' home, or like children that don't have parents, that sort of thing, right? So he's like a social worker, a case worker, right? So now he has a new case, which is to go to a particular foster home and investigate and actually see whether the home should be left open or it should be closed down. So that's where he goes, and he meets in this home that he goes to, right? In this foster home or in this care home that he goes to, he meets different children, meets different special children, strange children and everything. And amongst the children that he meets, he actually meets the son of Lucifer. He meets the son of the devil and meets like really, really, really strange children, that sort of thing, right? And eventually he falls in love with the children, he falls in love with the people and all of that, and he has to actually decide whether to stay with them or to return to his old life, return to his mundane, boring and ordinary life. And whilst he's in this home, stereotypes are challenged, things that he thought, all those things are challenged, and he's actually challenged to actually see people beyond, for instance, their parenthood, right? See people beyond the labels that have been placed on them and all of that. But like I said, I should have read the about of the author before going into the book, because that would have given me, information that would, that would have perhaps affected how I went into the book, maybe a bit more careful and a bit more expectant to see certain themes, right? So yeah, so the author is actually Kwe. I think that's how it's pronounced. So the author of this book identifies as Kwe. So if I had known that, I would have just been more careful, like, okay, I might see this in the book, right? And it's not like that took away from the book, but it just, in the book, I just saw a few things that I don't support, right? So that's just that. But that's the house on Cerulean Sea. That's not even the reason that I stopped reading the book, because it was after, right? Because I eventually jumped to the last chapter, found out how the book ended. That was when I now found out that, oh, the author is queer, right? That was not even why I did not finish the book. I just lost interest along the way. So the books that I actually completed in the month of July, I completed The Conviction to Lead by Albert Muller Jr. or Dr. Albert Muller Jr. So this book is a leadership book. It has 25 principles for leadership that matters. Yeah, I just read that off the cover. It's actually a Christian leadership book, but this book is so good. It's really, 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 really good. So this book introduces us to a superior type of leadership. It's a book that will definitely change how you approach leadership, how you see leadership, how you actually do, in quote, how you do leadership, right? It would change all of that. It would affect it positively, right? So in this book, we're introduced to leadership from a place of conviction, right? The book challenges us to lead with conviction, right? And not just leading without conviction, right? Not knowing your why, you're just leading, right? That sort of thing. And he also encourages, people with the right set of convictions not to actually shy away from leading, right? Because if people without conviction are leading, we are headed for disaster. We are introduced to the leader as a teacher, the leader as writer, the leader as a reader, right? The digital leader, and so many other things. This book is really, 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 really good. This was my second time reading this book, and there's always so much to learn from it and so many things to do differently. So this is a book that I'll definitely recommend to everyone. This is Conviction to Lead by Albert Muller. So this is a book that you should definitely read. A leader, whether you think you're not even a leader, right? You should read this book. There's something that you're going to go away with. Understand that leadership is not just about having a position, but leadership is action, leadership is influence, leadership is helping people, changing people. That is leadership, right? Leadership is more than just position. So this is a book that I would definitely recommend to everybody, right? So the next book that I read was How Jesus Broke the Rules to Set You Free by Sharon Jaynes. I loved this book. Like, this book is a 5-star, right? Conviction to Lead also is a 5-star, even though I don't really like giving like non-fiction reads start rating, but both of them are 5 stars, right? So this book introduces us to how Jesus broke the rules to set us free. It is also a Christian book, and it basically dives into how Jesus approached women, how Jesus reached out to women when he was on the earth, while he walked on the earth, because we know that back then the Jewish society was very patriarchal, right? Very, it was a society that it was a society that sidelined women, that did not allow women come to the forefront. There were these rules that barred women, that kept women hidden and all of that stuff. But we see Jesus on the earth. We see him just reaching out to women in different ways. We see him reaching out to women, we see him breaking rules, breaking protocol, just to liberate women, just to reach out to women. So this is, this book takes us through it. We're introduced to the story of Martha, we're introduced to the story of Mary, we're introduced to the Syrophoenician woman, we're introduced to the crippled woman, and so many other women in the New Testament. And I really liked that, the focus was on the New Testament. The focus was on how Jesus approached these women, especially in a patriarchal society, because, at times we see the story of Esther, we see the story of Ruth, we see the story of Deborah. Nothing wrong with that. But I liked how, he actually showed us how Jesus actually approached these women in the Gospels while he was on the earth. Because the society that he lived in did not approve of everything that Jesus was doing, right? It was not a society that approved of, men and women, set really mixing all those things, right? Jesus would break the rules. Jesus would do the things that the teachers of the law, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and everybody, they did not approve of, just so that he could show men that, that he actually loved them, just so that he could show men that they accepted, right? Just so that he could show men that, there's room for them in his family, right? And all of that good stuff. So this is a book that I'll definitely recommend for every woman, right? For everybody, even men should actually read this book, because it helps us to see how Jesus sees women, right? And everybody has to see how Jesus sees women, because it would actually affect, our approach even as a society. There are many things that go on right now in different societies of the world, different nations of the world, against women, that is so wrong. So many things that are going on, but we see how God sees women in this book. So if you have questions about identity, you have questions like, does God hate women, maybe based on your interpretation of the Old Testament, or women were not allowed to do this, women were not allowed to do that, or based off your interpretation of the environment that you find yourself, and you're curious, okay, how does God actually see women? Then this is a book that you should read. I loved the book. I loved how the book was written. It also includes present day experiences that just go along with to show us how God actually sees women, how God actually reaches out to women. And I really love this book, and I would recommend it to anybody and everybody. So this is a must read. 5 over 5. I also read Building Forever Friendships, right? And this brings me to the end of the physical books that I read. I read Building Forever Friendships by Adetoun, Jegede, right? From the name, it's very clear that this book is about friendships. This is a book on friendships. I love reading books on friendship, because, it helps me understand friendships better, and by applying them, my friendships also get better and everything. So shout out to my friend Yinka. Actually gave me this book. She gave me this book a while back, and I've not returned it, but right, Yinka would soon return this book, right? So see the cover. I really like the cover as well. See, it's inviting you to actually come and read. So Building Forever Friendships is about building forever friendships. So the author takes us through how to make friends, tips for making friends, for building friendships, takes us through, how to navigate conflict and offenses in friendships. Also debunks myths like 20 friends cannot play together for 20 years. So this book is a really, really good book. You want to up your friendship game, then this is definitely a book that you should read. You want to make friends, you want to get better at your friendships, this is a book that you should definitely read. And it's a short read, so it's not even lengthy, right? It's a very, very, very good guide to friendship. So this is a book that every friend should read. Everybody that wants to be better at friendships should read. I think I'll rate this like maybe 4.5, but it's a really, really, really amazing book, and I'll definitely read it over and over again, because there's always something to apply, something to implement. So the first fiction read that I read in the month of July, not the first, but I think it was the first anyway. So I read Before the King. I'll just include the cover because I don't remember the name of the author, but I know that the name starts with Heather, and I actually got this book. This book was recommended to me. I saw it on an Instagram account, which is To Summarize, so I might just link it in the description box so that you can follow up. Before the King, it follows the story of Joanna. I don't know, I read a bunch of Christian books in July. That's really amazing. Anyways, it follows the story of Joanna. Joanna is recorded in the Gospels as the wife of Chusa, the steward of Herod, and she was also a woman that contributed to the ministry of Jesus financially. You can check her out in the Bible, right, and everything. So it follows the story of Joanna. She lived with her family, her father, who was a Sadducee, a mother, and an elder sister who was epileptic, or who is epileptic, right? So due to her sister's epilepsy and her parents worrying that this would threaten their position or their rank in society, since like their father was being elevated in society and having to come closer and closer to the throne, they sent Joanna's sister to live with her mother's sister, who also had epilepsy, but she sort of like outgrew the epilepsy. So we see Joanna growing up, Joanna navigating different things. She gets engaged to a person who she's not 100% sure of. She also has all these struggles with her faith, struggles with believing in God and all of that. And she eventually does come across a person named Chusa, right? Chusa also is close to the palace, has affiliations with the palace. A really terrible event. It leaves Joanna in a really bad state, and things are basically just thrown out of, order. There's a lot of disorder because a lot of things go wrong and all of that good stuff. At this point, Chusa makes like a reappearance. Chusa comes back on the scene, and Chusa and Joanna enter into an agreement, right? And all this while, Joanna's been hearing about this person named Jesus. She has been hearing about a man named Jesus, and she was reluctant, right? She was reluctant, like, oh, and all of that. But eventually she goes to meet this man named Jesus, and she's like, she's awed. She's left awestruck, like, oh my goodness, Jesus, right? And she's completely transformed, physically transformed, spiritually transformed, and she's so much better for, you know, that one encounter with Jesus, right? Because no one meets Jesus and remains the same, right? It's the story of Joanna. This is the story of Joanna. We just see a whole lot of healing that flows out of that, a whole lot of healing, physical healing, emotional healing. And ever since that time, Joanna contributes to Jesus's ministry financially, and she just helps the ministry. It's not a very, very convenient thing for her to do because, like I said, she is close to the palace, right? So there's a lot of distrust. People don't trust her, like the disciples of Jesus don't trust her. And since she's close to Herod, she's always worrying that, oh, I don't want to put Jesus in trouble. I don't want to put Jesus in trouble, because Herod does grow an interest in Jesus because of all of the miracles that he's going about performing, right? But she still continues contributing to Jesus's ministry, doing right. And in this book, we also see the death of Jesus. Eventually, Jesus does die, right? We see the death of Jesus, we see the burial, we see the resurrection of Jesus. And in this book, I just got to see how much hopelessness and despair that the death of Jesus actually ushered in, right? I mean, obviously, I knew, but you know, just seeing it in Before the King, you know, it brought it to a new light. Like, wow, like there was a whole lot of despair, a whole lot of hopelessness at Jesus is dying, you know, and all of that, right? But thank God for Sunday, right? Thank God for Sunday, because he rose again, right? There's an empty tomb. Jesus rose again. This was a book that I really enjoyed reading, and I'll definitely recommend it to everybody. The book was written really well, beautifully written. Loved the, you know, the characters, the characterization, and all of that. So you should definitely read this book. You find yourself in Joanna's shoes. You're struggling with believing in God. You're struggling with your faith. You have all these questions for God. Does God even see you, right? You should definitely read this book. Or maybe you're trusting God for healing, or maybe you have issues with your health. Whatever it is, you can, you know, see yourself in Joanna's shoes. You should read this book, Before the King. I really love this. Well done to the author. It was an amazing book. I think I would rate this like 4.5 stars. 4.5 stars. So eventually I did finish Still Like an Artist in July. I didn't plan to, but you know, it just happened. I read Still Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. It was a really simple book, really easy book to get through, really light book as well. You know, it's a book about creativity, 10 things that no one tells you about being creative. So it's a book that, you know, every creative, every aspiring creative should. I'm definitely going to be reading it again in August. I'll be reading it again so that I can just have a better grasp. I read it from the top to the bottom because I did not read it from the start in July. I read it earlier in the year, so I'll just read it one more time in August and actually see what I can implement and do differently. So this is a must read for every creative. You're looking to step up your creative game, then definitely have a read. Read Still Like an Artist by Austin Kleon and learn how to still like an artist. And last book that I read in month of July is none other than Small by Small by Anya. So this is the memoir of a medical doctor. It takes us through, you know, the journey, the process, but to him becoming a medical doctor. So we see all his struggles, everything that he navigated. We see him going from, you know, secondary school to his preclinical years, his clinical years, even the years after that, his housemanship and all of that, and him finally becoming a doctor. So this was a very interesting book by Anya. I love the way the book was written. I love the storytelling. I love everything about this book. I mean, things that I could relate to it, you know, being a Nigerian and also being in a similar field of study, right? So this is a must read for every medical student. I definitely would recommend this book to every medical student, but even if you're not a medical student, you can read it. See him navigating all of these things, all of these rigors and demands of medical school in Nigeria, right? Because doing anything in Nigeria is another thing, right? You know, struggles, things like strike, things like abacha, right? So all of these things just coming together. So I really loved this memoir, you know. Given that I have not watched a whole lot of medical shows, this book did a really good job at introducing me to certain things, helping me actually see how, you know, medical school works, you know, the clinical years and all of that, the things that medical doctors face, the things that medical students face and all of that. So this was a really interesting book. And it was when I was planning for this video that I realized that all the memoirs that I've read this year, I've read 2 memoirs, right? I realized that both of them were actually like medical medically inclined. Both of them were actually written by medical doctors. So the first was When Breath Becomes Air, and now Small by Small. And truly realize that everything good does happen small by small. So I definitely would recommend this book. Definitely would recommend Small by Small by Anya. So it's definitely a book that you should check out. So if you'll be checking out any of the books on this list, you know, you can let me know in the comment section, or if you've read any of them, please let me know as well in the comment section. But please don't forget to like this video if you liked any of the books, or if you like this video, please like the video, comment and subscribe, right? And you can also drop a book emoji to let me know if you made it till the end. So drop a book emoji in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next video.